Fire in the hole. Welcome to Fro-Dog Arcade Repair, and today we're going to play Flyback ENT. Ear, nose, throat. Well, the flyback ears have a tendency to get broke off, and what I mean by an ear is if we look right here, we can see we had a place for a screw to come through and hold the flyback, keeps it from moving around, keeps our solder joints from breaking up and various. So, we've got the broken ear, our broken screw retainer, and we're going to put it back on. I like to start with a little bit of CA or super glue. This is hobby grade, so it's a little better. Let's take a zip tie and get these wires up out of our way. So perhaps we're not fighting those as much. I like to wear the rubber gloves because if you're like me and you mess with any kind of CA, next thing you know, you've glued your fingers to each other or glued them to the side of your head. Never good. We put a little bit of CA on both surfaces. Now, one thing that I don't have that I do like is the CA accelerant, but I don't have it, so we're going to roll without it. If you noticed, I put my screwdriver in the hole to kind of guide it in there for me. And I actually think our heat sink is bent out a little far, so let's take that back out. Bend our heat sink in just a little till this looks pretty parallel, those two planes. Now let's take this piece back in. Doesn't look too terrible. Let's see, does our screw want to fit? All right, we might have gotten a little too froggy. Has this flyback been replaced? Is it seated all the way tight to the board? Oh, yummy. I do not think that this flyback is seated to the board, which is part of our problem. Alright, we're going to take a little pause. We're going to unsolder our flyback, and we're going to slide it down on the board where it belongs. Okay, our problems go a little bit deeper than just a flyback not sitting tight on the board and this ear broke off. But we're still going to do our surgery. This is a replacement flyback. We got made in China here. Looks pretty clean, crisp. I believe as part of that chassis issue, the flyback has been replaced, and I think it's from mechanical damage. We'll get into that in another video. I'm going to title Sandwall number 3. It's the third of 7 sandwalls that I'm working on, and board happens to be cracked. So I think it's repairable. Somebody else attempted a repair. We got some things to straighten out on that board. I think the first thing we need to straighten out is the crack and the mechanics of stabilizing the board and whatnot. Making sure that the cage for the flyback isn't all bent and tweaked up as part of our problem. But in the meantime, I've got a little bit of CA glue on our flyback ear here, and I'm going to mix up a little epoxy. And this is just hobby store epoxy. I get the 5-minute stuff. I seem to like that. Works well for me. Kind of shake the bottles down to get the goo down towards the nozzle, and we squirt out equal amounts of the epoxy. Mix it, and then we can kind of goober around that ear a little bit, stabilize it. Well, we got our resin there, but we haven't got our hardener flowing yet. There we go. About equal parts. And I take just a long-handled wooden swab. Mix our epoxy well. Now, one thing you will find is if you're using CA and you've got a lot of that CA on there before the epoxy, it kind of crystallizes and makes the epoxy set up really quick just in the localized area where the CA and the epoxy meet. Now that will probably happen here, but I want to get a good coating, kind of wet it down on there good. You see how the epoxy is just a little goobery there versus nice and flowing. That's reacting with our CA. Now, part of the trick of this is to build up enough epoxy that we've got a nice, strong backplane for this piece to hold. But we also want to make sure that we don't have it running all over the place. Now, we've got a 5-minute pot life, so we got to make that work. But we also need to put enough around that we completely stabilize that lug. I think it'll drastically help once we not only have the epoxy on this lug, but we get the board straightened around, get the heat sink straightened around, make sure that that cage, heat sink cage around the flyback isn't tweaked and holding funny. Because the flyback was definitely not seated in the board all the way down, and there's definitely some crack and some trace repair going on, and we'll address that with the board itself. What we're addressing right now is the epoxying the ear back on the flyback. So we've got that ear, solder lug, whatever you want to call it. Now, I like to be liberal with the epoxy. And not shy away from making sure I've got several contact points and that I am flowing all the way around that point. You can see we've got a little bit of a run there. We'll bring him back up. And again, one of the reasons I like 5-minute is I can kind of keep the epoxy in check for 5 minutes, but not so much for 15, 20, 30 minutes. And I don't know in these applications that it really sets up that much better. Get another swab out here since I kind of goobered that one a little bit. We'll clean off. Yep, see, we got a big drip there onto our work area. The nice thing about this epoxy is if you do get a big goobery drip, you can clean it up, and if you get it on your bench, get it on your silicone pad, good old acetone will clean off our goobery spots. Just need to keep turning this to keep our runs in check. We'll try to clean up our bench a little bit. You can see where I wear gloves. It's a bit of a messy process. We've got a little bit on the HV wire, but that's no big deal. Looking around for my acetone. I know it's here somewhere. And paper towel instead of one of the rags. Excuse me. Acetone cleans that right up. Get another paper towel. We'll clean that HV lead off, or we got a little bit on it. I like this little pump up unit here. Got this from the old Dollar General. Inexpensive, works well. It's just good old acetone. There's nothing super special about it. I just really like the dispenser that it comes with. There we go. Got our HV lead tidied up. Our epoxy's starting to set up for us a little bit. It's kind of like watching paint dry. Not as bad. And with everything I do, I don't like it to look like a giant goober job's been done everywhere. It's looking pretty decent. Make sure to keep our G2 wires out of the way there. Oh, got some on the hand of my, or the side of my hand in the glove. That's how I keep getting it all over the bench, isn't it? There we go, wiping that off. All right, I think you got the gist of the program. That is how we play Flyback ENT. We've got our Flyback lug back on there. The epoxy will take a little longer to cure up for us, but I like to let that cure typically overnight before I try to run a screw in it. Make sure it's good and set. But we've got good coverage down in here bonding it. We've got the super glue in the actual crack bonding it. I think we're in good shape. It's not running around on us as much. Like I said, I can manage about anything for 5 minutes. So there it is, folks. That's Flyback ENT, repairing the screw lug on a Flyback where the plastic's cracked off. And we'll get into that Sanwa chassis with the cracked board, and we'll eventually get this Flyback put back in that unit and make it all happen. Thank you for joining me at Fro-Dog Arcade Repair. I hope you enjoyed the video, found it useful, or at least entertaining. Please subscribe below, like, follow, and share with your friends. And remember, fire in the hole.